work with some of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Tyson Fury, Billy Joe Saunders, Josh Taylor, Devin Haney.
You know, they're contagious, their personality, they're funniest.
He's not marketable. He doesn't sell tickets. Do you know what he is? We're not going to make any money off him. Put him over there as an opponent, and if he does all right, he does all right.
You're like a scientist almost.
Nah, I don't know. I don't actually know if I want to carry on doing this. I don't know if this is what I want to do. After one session, Tyson had said to me, do you want to be my new coach? And I thought, so my answer actually was, I think if you want to be a superstar boxer, you need to.
So today we are joined with Ben Davidson. How are you, Ben?
I'm good, thanks, mate. You?
Absolutely mint, mate. All the better for seeing you. It's been a while, mate, since I've wanted to get you on the podcast. So thanks a lot for coming down. It's appreciated. There's going to be a lot of people, obviously, they've seen your face kicking around. Funny enough, actually, if you Google you, mate, a rower comes up, the American rower, Ben Davidson, and he was convinced it was you, so it was kind of funny. But yes, there's a lot of people who don't know who you are. Obviously, boxing fans and stuff will, but for the people who don't, can you just give a little bit of background? Not how did it all begin, but just your story.
I'm a professional boxing coach. Probably one of the from what I know, I'm probably the youngest coach to be working at this level, and to have done a world title fight. I think the first world title fight I'd done, I was like a couple of days turned 24.
Bloody hell.
So probably most known for the work that I did with Tyson Fury, and now, you know, I've got a great stable of lads, great gym, and a lot of prospects, which is some of the stuff that I most enjoy, bringing through the next generation of champions.
That's amazing. That was it a case of, do you think it was a natural transition to go from obviously boxing yourself to what you're doing now, or is it because it's not every boxer does that? So why did you do that?
Well, I think that for me, I played football not before boxing, but I played football alongside that, and football was my number one love at the time. I think I was about 13. My dad was like, right, you need to make a decision. Do you want to play football or do you want to box? And I'd said, I want to play football. I wanted to be a professional footballer. I was probably middle of the road. There was lads that was better than me that didn't make it, lads that were worse than me that did make it. But one thing I did have and always had was a hunger and a desire to desperately just be the best that I could be. So I used to sit back and watch football games, and I would watch a whole match and watch one player. What does he do when the ball's in that area pitch? Where is he? Why is he there? Where's the rest of the players? And started to break things down like that. And then I come across a football coach that I had, Colin Reid, and just the way that he coached opened my eyes up to a style of coaching. Again, that was football at the time, but it's something that I took through into boxing. And then, you know, people would say to me, I got offered at the time by somebody that I knew that had his own gym to put me through my training qualifications. He was like, basically, if you don't make it as a football player, then you've got this to back up. So I was like, yeah, I took him up on that. And during that period, I started to coach boxing, and I could just see what was going to happen, or the way that I would explain it, people would be like, how did you know? Like, how could you see that? Like, how did you know that? And I couldn't articulate it or explain it at that moment in time.
Yeah.
And that's part of the art of coaching and becoming a better coach, of course. But I always knew I'm seeing things that other people aren't seeing.
Did you notice them things about yourself, even at semi-professional level in football? Because obviously you're looking at other guys and people who you manage under, and you're thinking, actually, well, I can see things or patterns or behaviours or whatever it is, what makes him better than other players or worse or whatever. Did you notice that within yourself?
Probably, yeah. Or I would say that I took the information in better than others because I was being coached by a certain coach and with a certain style of coaching, and it just clicked to me. And when other guys wouldn't get it, or they wouldn't make the right movements that this coach had asked for, I would be like, are you just completely ignoring what he's asking you to do, or is he? Do you not understand? I couldn't work that out. So I think gradually I started to realise that maybe from the extra studying that I would do, wanting to understand, desperately trying to be the best that I could be, IQ in terms of that sport may improve and grow. And then again, I'm looking out for different things. That style of coaching, the way he would explain it, I took that into boxing. So I started to look at things differently. I would assess it differently. And then gradually, again, obviously over time, your ability to articulate what you're seeing improves. And again, one of the things that I learn more so than anything every single day is how to explain what it is that I'm asking for a certain person to do, certain fighter to do differently, and how explaining it ever so slightly differently may work better for him. Explaining it ever so slightly differently may work better for him. Yeah. Explaining it totally differently may work for him.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's something that you learn with experience.
Were you in your friendship group and stuff when you were young, Ben? Did you find yourself as like a bit of a leader, or were you the organizer of things? Or
I would say I've always been. People would call it an alpha, I suppose.
Because I sense that in you. I mean, I've been down to your gym to work with yourself, and I've seen some of the things you've done. I've felt, video guy Kurt, I was telling him when I came back from your gym, what I picked up from you, because I'm interested in how people behave. And what I saw when I was working with you guys, like, you're like a scientist almost. The way you sit and watch the videos on YouTube, you look at past fights, other people in the game and things like that, and the studying that you do. I know you're in there at stupid o'clock in the morning. You were getting there before me, and I was supposed to be filming. So it was like, and then you were there all evening and stuff, and just relentless. I feel like that's something you can't teach. So I feel like if you do that in any kind of field, you're going to excel. To a degree?
Yeah, so there's been a couple of points in my life where I wasn't looked at academically great. Most teachers would say, bit cheeky, probably causes trouble. I didn't excel in school, but there was a few points in my life, and one of those was a teacher that I come across where he basically said to me those words. It was like, whatever you decide to do, you'll do well at. And the person that put me through my training qualifications, I actually ended up leaving the gym, obviously, to set up some things on my own. He said the same thing. He said, well, look, go and do whatever it is that you need to do, but no matter what whatever walk of life you took, you would have always been successful at because of the work ethic.
Have you seen the teacher since?
I have a couple of times. Yeah, I've seen him a couple of times.
That must be mad for him to see that in you when you were younger.
I don't think he even knew at the time, because he was always a bit of a boxing fan, so we always had a bit of a relationship. And he actually started talking about Tyson at the time, and I was like, oh, funny enough, I actually trained Tyson. And he was like, what? So
mad, that. How did that come about?
The work with Tyson.
You've probably told this story a million times, but
so me and Billy Joe. I was working with Billy Joe at the time, and then Billy Joe had said to me, is it okay if Tyson comes along on his training camp? He was going to Marbella for a training camp. And I said, yeah, of course, no problem. At the time, I thought, he's not really, because we was there before, and Tyson was supposed to come over before, but I think he'd come over and he never actually come to the gym. He went out on the drink, and I was expecting the same again. He said, do you mind if Tyson comes? I said, not a problem. But I thought he's going to come over, have a party, and he'd go back home. But he didn't. He actually, come over, train, stuck to it. And very quickly I knew actually he's still got a lot of love for the sport. And I remember the first session that we did, the giggling, the excitement I could sense in him was like a child.
Do you think you brought that out of him?
No, I wouldn't say I brought it out in him. I just think that he must have been in the right frame of mind and the right environment. And he'd clearly made a decision, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to train. And he stuck with it, and getting in the gym, getting his hands wrapped, getting ready to get in the ring, getting his gloves tied up. I just sensed that almost excitement to start something fresh. And, I suppose that was the start of it.
Do you think when you did that, obviously because a lot of people know who you are because of that, I understand that the real deep boxing fans are going to know Ben Davidson before that, what you did in the past and stuff. But do you think when you were training with Tyson, or before you started working with Tyson, did you think that this could be a business move as well? Did you think I can use this to market myself, or is it strictly about you just doing the best you can coaching?
The Tyson job.
Yeah.
So after one session, Tyson had said to me, "Do you want to be my new coach?" And I thought, I remember thinking, I don't want to come across as an inexperienced, yeah, I'll do it, mate, desperate for the job.
I get it.
So my answer actually was, take your time. You had success previously with your uncle. I don't want you to rush into any decisions. If you want to continue working, you can pay me for my time. I'll stay here. We can continue to work and go from there. You don't have to make any decisions right now or commit to anything right now. And I think that probably at the time stood for a lot, because I think for Tyson it wasn't I've got to fully commit here.
Yeah.
Then there was a point where you know, I did have to say to him, where we was on our way to Spain to actually commit for this training camp, and we got to France and he was like, I can't do this. We're gonna have to turn back. I'm ever so sorry. And I was like, mate, like, it's not happening.
So did you think you have to force him into this at this point?
Not force him, but
yeah.
I did say to him, I said, look, I've given up my gym, I've given up my business and everything that I had back at home to commit to this. Like, there's no turning back type thing. And
yeah.
And we got him there in the end.
That's mad. That does it differ, Ben, from training someone like who's just come into the scene, or someone who's got talent, or someone who hasn't got as a big of a profile as someone like Tyson? Does it differ in the actual gym, or do you leave the profile out of it and just focus on the work?
Yeah, I think leave the profile out of it, but I do think that every individual is different and how you approach people. And I think that'd probably be the same in your work. I think that in everyday life, really, you can't treat everybody the same. You can have a certain type of banter with one person and somebody else, do you know what, I haven't really got that relationship with them, or they're not that type of character. So I think I'm quite good at figuring out what the type of people's personalities.
Yeah, I think you've got a good way of connecting people as well, because I've been in and around gyms and stuff like that, and I've seen different people who they go in, they get their head down, they don't really mix as much because they're just, after that one goal, they leave. When I was down at your gym, there was a real sense of community. There was like an actual culture. I don't need to say that. There was genuinely that. And I felt like all the lads, like the Mark Dickinsons, the Lee Woods, all them, they just had banter. It was like, it was something different in that gym. What do you think you've done to create that sense of community and culture?
I think a part of it, if I'm being honest, is just the fact that they live together.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a big part, like,
a lot of lads come to me from around the country. I don't just train local lads. You know, I've got lads from Scotland. I've got lads from all the way up here, and you know, I work with lads from America, and so I work with people all over the place. And the lads that are in the gym every day, they live together, and I think that helps create a certain environment in itself. But of course, that's not all it is, because, you know, you'll have that same thing on the GB squad, and I'm sure that there's certain cliques within the GB squad. But I think it's the type of characters that you take on board as well. I think that, you know, you want to work with people that deep down you think they're good people, you know, and I think good people around good people will always get on.
So what's better, a great boxer, bad attitude, or an alright boxer with an amazing attitude?
Alright boxer with an amazing attitude, not open for interpretation, any discussion. That is a fact. I will achieve more with an okay boxer with a great attitude than I would do with a great boxer with a bad attitude, because that great boxer with a bad attitude, there's certain, even at world level, every fight is different. Every style is different. You have to take fights in a different approach. If a boxer has a bad attitude and he thinks he's the bee's knees, but I didn't know if we could swear on it.
Yeah, of course.
So if he thinks he's the dog's bollocks, and he thinks, this is how I fight, this is how I'm going to go about the fight, you know, I know what I need to do, he's going to come unstuck very quickly.
Yeah.
Because every fighter and every style has got strengths and weaknesses, and he's going to come across that style where what he wants to do is not what he needs to do. There's going to be an issue. And this is one of the secrets behind the success of Lee Wood. So Lee Wood lost twice at domestic scene, gone on to become a world champion. And even that fight that he just lost there, defending his world title, you know, he was comfortable. He was in control, comfortably in control. I felt like he was a couple of rounds away from stopping Lara, but Lee is very coachable, very coachable. Now, when he first came, there was a bit of resistance, and he'd say that himself in terms of, this isn't how I want to box, and this isn't what I've been doing.
Did you think you had to break his style a bit?
Yeah, I had to change his style. Yeah, I had to make some adjustments to his style. But I think that luckily, Lee was at a point in his career where it was almost like, oh, fuck it. I'm in a position where if I don't, like, I've got nothing to lose. I've got nothing to lose just by going with it. And he went with it and was like, actually, he had his eyes open. Do you know what? It actually did work like that. And I think that's played out in his fights, and this belief in the system just took over. And that has been the secret behind a big part of Lee's success. Now, I'm not saying that's the only reason behind Lee's success, because Lee's extremely dedicated, the ultimate professional. I always say I'm lucky to work with Lee because he's a fantastic role model for the rest of the lads that are in the gym.
Yeah.
He's almost like a father figure in there. Even back at the house, obviously at the daytime I'm in the gym, but when they go back home, he's there, and they'll all look up to Lee and the way that he does things. And Lee will probably say to you that there's other lads that are in the gym that have got bundles much more talent than him, but will they all become world champion?
And that's the thing as well. I think if you have that bad attitude, it's not gonna graft in the gym. It's not gonna work, is it? With the other lads, it's gonna spoil everything. The morale, it's all gonna. You probably end up leaving the gym yourself before anyone even says anything to you.
So I think about this, like the High Performance podcast. They'll say, "What's your 3 non-negotiables?" My number one, forget any 3. My number 1 non-negotiable is you've got to be coachable.
Yeah.
Because if you're not coachable, this relationship will not work. And I'm fully aware, a weakness of mine, I'm aware of my strengths and weaknesses, and I'm quick enough to jump on the rest of the lads for their weaknesses. But I know one of my weaknesses is if I am not reciprocating that coachability or that a certain something, I'm very quickly arm's length and get discouraged myself and think, okay, if you're not going to listen, and relationships break down. I'm fully aware of that, but it's a weakness of mine. But it's like I say, it's a non-negotiable for me. I think you have to be coachable because I'm confident that we can take someone from where they are to. I'm confident that at one point, I believe that my team will develop the best boxer in the world at some point.
It's unbelievable. I think you've got that self-belief in you, never mind the people who you're bringing on board. While we're on the Lee Wood thing, when you flung the towel in, obviously there's people who may disagree, may agree with it. What was the conversation? I don't really need to know why you did it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously it was a compassionate move. But what was the conversation like after that with Lee?
Initially, there wasn't much conversation. He was just gutted, the first thing that I said to him, which was actually caught on camera, was, you'll get a rematch. You've got a rematch clause. You'll get this rematch. I think that the reason why was, 2 of the biggest comebacks in boxing, in recent times in boxing, I've actually been in the corner for. Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder the first time. And Lee Wood against Mick Conlan's another one.
Yeah, exactly.
Those 2 times was different because there was no doubt in my mind that the fighter was able to defend himself. Again, with Lee against Lara, I wasn't sure that Lee was able to defend himself. And that's a risk that I wasn't willing to take. Now, I can't sit here and say, and this is the conversation I've had with Lee, I can't sit here and say, definitely you would have got flatlined. The fight was over. This is what would have happened. I can't say that. I can't sit here and say, yeah, 100%, mate, you would have got through that. It was a bad mistake. Sorry about that.
Yeah, of course.
What I can say is, I don't know what would have happened. Would you have survived? Would you not have survived? Would you have got through it? I don't know. Lee, as a fighter, will always believe,
could have went on.
I could have got through that. I would have got through that. Now, Lee will come out and publicly defend me and say, I believe him, stand by my coach's decision, blah, blah, blah. But deep down, he will feel, I could have got through that. And that damn right he needs to feel like that, because he is a fighter. He has to feel like that. And he should feel like that. And the reason that he should feel like that is because he's got that in him previously. He's shown that before. One of the first reasons I actually took Lee Wood on was a mutual friend of ours, Leo, mentioned Lee to me, and I watched one of his fights, and in the moment he got hurt, he went back and beat his chest, and straight away I said, I like him. He's got something about him.
Straight away.
So Lee has to believe that, but it wasn't a risk that I was willing to take, unfortunately. So. But it leaves it, I knew Lee had a rematch clause, and it's a fight that I'm very confident in that we can put right and we can fix.
100%.
So yeah, the conversation afterwards was just basically that. Look, Lee, I can't say I know for a fact. Unfortunately, that's how I felt. I didn't know if you would be able to defend yourself.
Yeah, of course. So you've heard on the side of caution.
Yes, it was a risk that I wasn't willing to take. But there hasn't been too much, like, constantly going over it.
Yeah,
but I've
yeah,
obviously,
of course.
to get it off of my chest, because it's a decision that I have to sleep with and live with. I've had, I just explained that to Lee.
And the beauty is, because of that decision, the way I would look at it is, he's got the ability now to go on and right them wrongs or whatever.
For sure.
So without that, you don't know where I could have went. And if there was any chance of it going the wrong way, you've done the right thing. Has there ever been a time when you think you've made the wrong decision?
In the corner, chucking a towel in?
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have, no. That's the first time I've ever had to chuck the towel in. I feel like, again, Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 1 was an opportunity where the towel could have gone in. But I feel like clearly it was the right decision not to. Leewood against Mick Conlan was another one.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly it was the right decision not to. So, yeah, I do feel like on the 3 occasions, personally, I feel like the 3 occasions that I could have, one time I did, I feel like I've got those 3 decisions right. Personally, that's how I feel.
What does the process look like when someone comes to train at the Ben Davidson Performance Centre? Is there kind of a selection process? Is there any kind of vetting, or do you just say, yeah, he's got heart, he's got talent, he's got good intentions, he's got the right attitude, he can come into the gym? Or do you actually try and analyse the fighter a bit more? Or how does it work? How does someone get to train with yourself?
It varies, really. I mean, usually there's some form of background pedigree. For us to take somebody on, we wouldn't really take on a novice, so to speak.
Of course.
Sometimes it's somebody that a fighter already in the gym knows.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bit of a relationship. What's he like? What type of character is he? Okay, bring him down. We'll take a look. Might do a session. Yeah, not really for... Or they might come down and go, you can come back next week and continue that. Sometimes it'll be a standout amateur might contact me. We'll have a look. Do you know what? I think he's got potential. He'll come down. And then obviously along the way, you're assessing somebody's personality and how you feel like that will fit in within the group, and actually personally how you feel like you would get on with them. In terms of the twins, the McCormack twins, Mark Dickinson was already in the gym. Luke actually come down first, so I was working with Luke. And then
He come down before Pat?
He come down before Pat. I think Pat had gone on holiday after the Olympics. Then I actually met Pat for the first time at the Joshua Usyk fight. And we had a bit of crack. And, he'd obviously already said he was wanting to come down the gym, but got a sense of, there's a relationship there. Come down the gym. And then in that situation, that scenario, we had already had a scouting report for Luke and a scouting report for Pat. Sat down, watched it with them. This is what we feel like you do well. This is what we feel like you need to work on. This works in the amateurs, but I feel like you need to make this adjustment as a pro, etc., etc. And it was just a process from there. And, obviously the fighter has to believe in the system as well. I think it's a different system to how most people approach the sport. I like to feel like, and sometimes this works with people and sometimes it doesn't, but I like to feel like there is not much left open for interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of, if you do this, this is probably going to happen. And we like to feel like scenarios that are going to play out in the fight, most of the time, I like to feel like we have them covered. So if a scenario does occur, it's like, actually, there's responsibility here for someone. Is this a scenario that we didn't address? The responsibility is on us. Is this a scenario that we did address? The responsibility is on you. We spoke about this and we drilled this over and over and over, and you kept making the wrong decision there. So, and we'll go back and we video sparring and we'll go back through it and say to them, watch this and watch that, and that's what you need to do. This is why he's getting that reaction from the opponent when he does this, because of this. This is why you're getting that reaction from the opponent when you do that, because of this. And of course, it takes time to do it because it's a different approach to sport. I think a lot of people will look at the sport or look at boxing and they'll pick out individual moments. Great left hook. Did you see that left hook?
Yeah.
Look at the way he threw it. Just a little bit more of this angle, a little bit more of that angle. In my opinion, it's fairy dust. You're talking nonsense, a little bit more like this. It was a little bit more like that. In my opinion, that may be other people's philosophy, but for me, you got 4 of the best left hookers. Just pick some random names: Inoue, Canelo, Roy Jones, whoever else. Yeah, 4 great left hookers, 3 great left hookers there that I've named. They all throw their left hook in a with different technique. Little extra inch here, see this hit? 1 more inch through there. Well, if he's throwing that like that, he's throwing that like that, and he's throwing like that, all completely differently. How are they all still great left hookers? Because it's not so much the technique.
Well, of course, but the physique itself falls into place.
And it's the application. How do you apply that technique?
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you go back and watch Canelo, actually, do you know what it is? He set that left hook up. He playing the jab off of each other, mixing up his timing. Someone's now he's recognised the opponent's reaching for his jab. He sold him the jab, come around with a left hook. Oh, brilliant left hook, landed.
And also it's the back to the attitude and the morale and the culture that you create. It's back to if this jab doesn't work time and time again, what do we do to change it? And their reaction to how they're changing it. You're going to get a lot of people. You see it all the time, don't you? The kind of stuck in their ways and not willing to move. And it's like, yeah, but now you're kind of boxing yourself in terms of growth. I mean, the McCormack, look at the lads, the contagious, their personality, the funniest fuck, some of those shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? The good lads. And I think that's part of the bigger picture with what you've got and what I've seen. What I was going to ask you, Ben, in terms of boxing in general and boxers, how much of it is marketing? So when I say that is, if you look at a boxer, do you look at his appearance, how he looks, his stamp, how good condition he's in? Not just boxing itself. Do you see it as? Because I'm sure you've got to look at the business side of it as well.
For sure.
If you look at anyone like a Josh Kelly or a Ryan Garcia or any of these guys, I mean, look at them. They're good-looking lads as well. So when they're going out doing their thing, there's no reason why they've got, I mean, what's Garcia? He's on 10 million followers on it. He's brilliant at what he does, but still I think, the image, all that plays into it. How much would you say plays into it in terms of image as a boxer?
Depends on what your goals are and your aspirations are. I think that for you to become a crossover star, and these big mega superstars, vital, absolutely vital, because your boxing skills are going to determine whether you become a world champion or not. To a degree, the fact of being marketable, selling tickets, being a big name, getting viewing figures, that will help you in terms of a promoter's going to invest in you. The promoter's going to invest in you, and he's going to try and get you, by the promoter investing in you, you may get opportunities to go a slightly easier route than someone that he's not marketable. He doesn't sell tickets. Do you know what? We're not going to make any money off him. Put him over there as an opponent, and if he does all right, he does all right.
Because a lot of them are cash cows, aren't they? That's the way a lot of people will look. I mean, that's probably up for debate. But because, like, for instance, look at Anthony Joshua. Do you think he would have did what he did with the talent if he didn't look the way he looked?
So, difficult, because I think with Anthony Joshua, my personal opinion is that there are more naturally gifted boxers out there, but I am a big fan of the work that he's put in. I think that not only the hard work, but the smart work that he's put in. I think that his approach of, he's desperate to get, he's a 1%er, desperate for 1% here and 1% there. That's what's got him to where he's got to. But he's a 2-time unified heavyweight champion of the world. Exactly. Phenomenal achievements, phenomenal. I think he's been extremely smart in the sense of what you're talking about there in terms of his appearance, his approach, commercially. Him and his team have done a phenomenal job there, marketing him. And on that subject, I've got a friend who works at Showtime Boxing, and I was over there for the Devin Haney and Jojo Diaz fight. And while we was over there, Canelo was fighting Caleb Plant. And I texted him, cheeky really, but I texted him saying, look, any chance I can get a few tickets for the lads for the fight, and he was like, "I'll do you a deal. Come to this Jake Paul press conference with Tommy Fury, I think it was. I don't think Tommy ended up going, was able to get there. Come to this press conference, and I'll sort you out some tickets." I was like, "No problem." I went there, and Jake Paul talking through the press conference, and he was actually talking about investing in himself, and he was saying, the difference with me is I invest in what I believe is the best boxing team. I invest in the best content team. I make these sacrifices and investments in myself to be able to be on these platforms and do what I'm doing. And, they're huge investments that I make, but they pay off. And, when people complain about what he's been able to go and achieve, whatever level you want to call it, he's invested in himself and made smart decisions for him to be able to do what he's done. It hasn't just happened like that, And, I respect the work that he's putting in terms of his boxing as well. So, it's a huge, huge thing, and I keep having this conversation with Pat. It's a huge thing. A big part of the world is social media now, whether people like it or not. It's a huge part of the world. And for him to, I believe he's got all of the capabilities to become a superstar. I've worked with some of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Tyson Fury, Billy Joe Saunders, Josh Taylor, Devin Haney. These guys are on the pound-for-pound list. And Pat, at times, I would say, has the potential to exceed all of them in terms of his ability.
Yeah, of course.
Now, consistency is something different. If he continues to make the right decisions and live the right life, I'm confident that he's able to achieve that. But a big part of today's world is slightly different. Not so much with Devin, because Devin big on his content creation and he's done a great job there. With Tyson, he come through back in the day when social media wasn't as big. But I believe that it's a big part of the world today, and for Pat to be this next generation and become a superstar of this next generation, it's a big part of it, and it's something that he needs to be aware of, and it's an area that we are certainly trying to focus on moving forward, and something that we're aware of. But it's definitely big for the next generation, because it's a huge part of the world and today's world.
So I know with the content side of things, the social media, I know when you hired me to create content for the lads, do you think no matter what level you're at as a boxer, whether you've just got in the game or you're 10 years in, do you think it's important for a boxer to build a brand? Because I spoke to Tony Jeffries, had him on, and Tony said it's massive. He thinks every boxer, regardless, should be creating content, even how to tie gloves up, whatever it is. There's content in everything. He said you should be making content regardless. Now, the argument would be, do you want to let that really take away from the actual boxing? Because I've seen millions of lads, not millions, but I've seen a lot of guys who will film themselves boxing, but they're not about that, but they want to look that way. So where's the balance in that? Do you think you should focus on creating content and taking your training seriously? Or do you think if you can get a content creator to help you, or to be honest, just focus on the boxing, bring the content in later?
What just flashed in my mind as you explained that, and I 100% understand what you're saying there about people that will perceive something that they're not. I think that's very different. I think it depends on what market and what type of content you're trying to push. If you're trying to push a very basic, I've got a few basic boxing drills that I've learned, I'm going to teach you guys.
Yeah.
Not a problem. If you're going on there perceiving to be an expert and you're far from an expert, I don't think you're going to be successful. It's very unlikely. Some people are. I see some boxing pages that have got putting up drills and explaining or attempting to explain scenarios, and you should do this and you should do that. And I think, how is the knowledge not there to decipher what is useful and what is not useful? Like, in what scenario have you ever seen that played out in an elite level fight? You might have seen it at a low level, but do you see it at an elite level? Well, there's a reason you don't see it at that level. So I think it's important to be real, and I think people can suss out what's real and what's not, because you've just said there, I see people put it up and I know they're not about that.
Yeah,
and I think that can almost turn people away from it. I think if you want to be a superstar boxer and you're trying to create content to perceive that you are a superstar boxer, but you are nowhere near it, you need to, I would probably park it to one side, focus on becoming better, and then come back to it. I think for lads that have actually got potential to become stars, I think it's vital. It's so important in today's world. And I think the quicker you start, the better. But I don't see anything wrong with beginners doing beginner content.
Yeah. See, because the way I look at it, Ben, there's a lot, I mean, you know yourself, only the elite, are going to make it. And for me, the way I look at it, and I wanted to ask you about this, the crossover boxing, the influencer boxing scene, if you like, a lot of people now are getting into gyms. They're looking at the KSIs of the world, they're looking at all this stuff, and there's arguments for it's bringing more eyes to boxing and all the rest of it. But if your chances are against you of becoming a great professional boxer, financially doing well, and building a real life for yourself and family, why wouldn't it be a good idea to not focus on becoming a professional boxer and becoming an influencer boxer? Do you think that's an okay thing to say? Don't focus on becoming a real good boxer, just focus on being an entertainer.
It's hard when you separate the two, because what I often think about beginner boxing and beginners is, I don't actually think about the skills that you're learning. I think about more of the life lessons that you learn, the discipline,
I know what you mean. Like,
nothing will teach you respect like a punch in the mouth, because at some point you might get the better of your gym mate. All of a sudden you feel like you're the top dog. Before you know it, you're getting your head punched in the next session.
It's humbling as fuck, isn't it, really?
And a lot of the things that you learn in boxing, when I talk about people who are starting in boxing, those are the things that come to my mind. I don't think about, oh yeah, this drill or that drill. Yeah, they'll be learning that, or they'll be like, that is the first thing that comes to my mind. A lot of people obviously start young, so
yeah, of course,
you're learning these valuable life skills when you're coming through. So I think it's great for anybody to get into boxing. And I think, when you first start, no matter what age, there's been champions that have started at 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. I think that it will take a while before you can actually decipher you're going to be okay. You'll do all right. Forget about it, mate, So I think it's hard to straight away say, you go down that road, you go down that road. There's kids that probably start off worst of the bunch and end up, actually, do you know what? He's turned to leave, something's clicked, and then
attitude and all that kind of deciphers that, doesn't it? And being around them gyms and stuff is going to bring that out to you.
Commitment.
Yeah,
just being committed as well. Like, if you're consistent and you're committed, along the way, you might start, he's better than me, and you're 13, 12, however old, he's better than me, and he's better than me, and he's better than me, and I'm never going to be the best. And then a few years goes by, he gave up. He went and got a girlfriend. He went off to work. Before you know it, I'm the top boy in the gym here.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been consistent.
What would you say then, Ben, if Lee Wood or the McCormicks now said to you, we're going to be YouTube boxers? Would it break your heart to be like, you were on a path? But if they're like, now we've got opportunities, this is what we're going to do. Would you feel like you're wasting your talent going into this with beginners or novices or entertainers, if you like?
What I would say is they're not in a position where they would need to do that. They can earn just as much money not going into that. I think for somebody that's at a lower level, but how have they, to become an influencer boxer, you've got to be an actual influencer.
You've got to build a brand.
What have you become an influencer based on? Have you become an influencer based on something else? For example, Salt Pappy, he can box a little bit.
I think he's a little beast, mate.
He can box. So, if he was to turn around and go, do you know what it is? I might have a crack at the pros. He might have a crack at the pros and go, do you know what it is, mate? Stick to the YouTube boxing, Or he might say, do you know what it is? I was wanting to turn professional, but I went down this road. You can't say he made the wrong decision.
Yeah, that's it. Like, because I've worked with quite a lot of the influencer boxers, and sometimes I look and I think, I always think it's amazing because they've built their own brand, so they've deserved the position. They didn't start the boxing, But I also sometimes look at boxers who are on the way up and they've dedicated their life and they just haven't got that break. Now, I'm not saying they'd got that break if the influencer scene hadn't taken over, but sometimes I feel like, is there any kind of resentment? Like, for fuck's sake, like,
oh, for
do you
sure,
know what I mean? Because it would
sure.
probably piss. If I'm honest, it would piss me right off. If I dedicated my life and I was seeing guys doing stupid kinds of money for the first fight and stuff.
But see, I don't feel like that, because I think, well, they've grafted another area. For example, a boxer becomes a multi-millionaire through boxing. He then goes and becomes a property developer, and he's extremely successful in property developing because of the money that he earned from boxing. You can't turn around and go, you had to work hard becoming a property developer, buy one property and then another and then another. But they've walked in and gone, there's 15 properties. And
that's fair enough.
Can't, they've like you said earlier, they've earned their right by working hard in another field to build this brand. And the reason they're earning that money is for a reason, because they're bringing a certain audience,
Yeah,
they've got a value.
I get that. Like, that's
the reason
fair enough.
They've got a value is, and a lot of people criticize this YouTube boxing or whatever it is that you want to call it. I've got respect for it. It's a hard job, and
it's nice to hear that, mate, from you. I think.
And do you know what? An amateur coach, come into the gym the other week. He's a pro coach and an amateur coach, pro-am coach. And he said to me the night, what was the recent fight? Was it a KSI fight recently?
We did the Mayweather fight. Mayweather Chalmers?
No, I think it was Jake Paul. Sorry, the other day. Sorry.
Oh shit, with Fury.
Jake
Fury,
Paul.
Yeah.
It was after that. It was Jake Paul and Tommy Fury, and I don't know why I KSI in my mind there.
Mm-hmm.
It was Jake Paul and Tommy Fury, and he come in and he said, I can't tell you how many more lads have walked into my amateur gym the next night after that, asking, why was he doing this? Why was he doing that? Why was that happening? Why was this happening in a fight? He said, I never ever get that. And that's because of that fight. So I've got nothing wrong with these fights taking place and that. And I'm sure there are boxers that have resentment towards Tommy for earning what he's earned based upon having X amount of fights. But again, he's made some smart moves, built a certain audience that he's got. Yes, okay, Tyson Fury is his brother, but each to their own. Sometimes people get a little bit of luck along the way.
That's fair enough.
And that's life. Not everybody's path works out the same.
For people looking at you and your kind of path, your trajectory, if you like, it appears to me, and probably a lot of people, this kid's went from strength to strength to strength. Like, you're achieving min things, mate. And again, probably being one of the fortunate ones who've seen what you're about and in the gyms and stuff. Have you had dark days along the way? Has there been times when you thought, you know what, fucking hell, like, I don't know if I can do this same thing? Or do you think you're that addicted to boxing, and because you are a student of the sport, do you think have you ever been in the position where you were like, I'm just going to park this up, I need it?
Yeah, for sure. Look, you have ups and downs, and I think, part of, again, going back to part of the social media world is you don't sit there and post, bad day today, feeling like this, don't want to do it anymore. Some people do that, but it's not a narrative that you see pushed anywhere as much as everything's all good and we continue to succeed and everything's positive. But of course, there's been certain moments along the way, which I won't say exactly what moments, where I thought to myself, I don't know. I don't actually know if I want to carry on doing this. I don't know if this is what I want to do. And then I stuck with it, and I felt like, actually, do you know what? That was the right decision. Eventually, you get to a point where it's, I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. There's no hesitation, no doubt in my mind that this is what I'm on this planet for. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. But I feel like, I personally feel like I'm probably the most critiqued coach in the country by a long stretch. If one of my boxers wins and has a bad performance, people jump on it. If, anything bar an exceptional, great performance,
Why do you think that is with you? Because I noticed that there's a lot of that with you, and it's like, give the bloke some credit. Do you know what I mean?
Because I've probably said certain things along the way where people are like, it comes across as though, he's arrogant, he's this. I probably said things a bit, a bit naive, thinking everybody knows what I mean and the type of person I am, but they don't. I've had people that I'm now actually close with go, do you know what? I used to think you was a right wanker. Got the wrong end of the stick there, you know.
Sorry about that, mate.
Got the wrong end of the stick there, you know.
Yeah, of course.
But that it makes it difficult for me because, you know, I wasn't a famous boxer. I didn't have somebody in the sport, you know, a famous dad, or I didn't have, you know, I got these opportunities through my own self. And I feel so recently I went on, I think it was about 6.5 years, but I didn't take a loss. for about 6.5 years, numerous title fights, critiqued over and over and over and over and over, like criticized heavily. And then after Lee Wood's loss, where I chucked in the towel, I probably got more credit for that, taking a loss, than I did for 6.5 years of not taking a loss. And to me, you know, it's a bit crazy, you know, but I've just come to the understanding that is how it is.
I suppose if you're not getting any shit, mate, you're not doing well.
But it motivates me. This, you know, I've learned to use it to. It's always motivated me, but I've learned that, do you know what it is? Probably without that level of critique, I probably wouldn't be on it as much. I probably wouldn't have that same. Tired today.
Has your success changed you, Ben? If you're totally honest with yourself, like even from because the next question I want to ask was, would you do what you're doing now for minimum wage?
Would I do what I'm doing now for minimum wage? That's a difficult question, because I would say that I have.
Yeah. I
have done. You know, I've worked with fighters where, to be honest with you, I've not even took a penny off them because I thought, it's not even worth it. You know, they're in a lot. I'm not earning any money from doing this. So minimum wage, I'm doing it for free pretty much when I was first starting out. But I always had the belief that I will get to where I believe that I'm going to get to. And, you know, in the Tyson period and after that, people would sometimes say, I bet you didn't think this would happen. I used to look at them and be like, no, I did.
That's mad.
Did believe.
Do you know what's fucking crazy, Ben, right? So I think that level of, it's almost delusional, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Because almost, like the amount of shit like I've done for free, where I've actually lost money, mate.
For sure.
Do you know what I mean? To a point where I'm thinking, fuck, man, I've actually funded that. Like that's mad. And like, but I always, I mean, what did I say I said to video guy Kurt at the start of this, I was like, I'll get Ben on the podcast. Not in a arrogant way. Yeah. I was like, yeah, of course I will. Because there's, at the end of the day, you do things with the right intentions. You've got a goal in mind, and why shouldn't you get there?
That's right.
As long as you've got a good art, mate. And I think if you keep going forward in that direction, the only way you weren't coming on is if I just stopped trying.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
And I think that's clearly what you've done. When I was asking you about has success changed you, when you start getting noticed, when you start getting, you know, spotted in the street, did you get you're verified on Instagram and stuff as well, when you got your blue tick, all them little milestones, if you like, or certainly to someone who doesn't have those, are going to look at them and think, fuck, it must be sick to be Ben. Can you remember a point when you actually thought, shit, like, I'm kind of noticed for my hard work now?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say, like, for me, and I understand for a lot of people that will be signs of, I've achieved that, there's signs of achievement. They wasn't my goals and my achievements, you know. One of my goals that I said to myself was I want to be the youngest trainer to have trained a world champion.
You've done that, haven't you?
I was the youngest trainer to corner a world champion with Billy Joe. Yeah, I was a couple of days turned 23 or 24, I can't remember now. But, you know, after that, I remember thinking to myself, I used to say that was going to happen. And then that happened. I don't know if that is an actual fact. Mm-hmm. But for this country, I'm pretty sure, well, definitely of recent times, for sure. But I remember thinking, so for example, actually, I've been thinking about this for quite a while. I'm going slightly off topic here. Mm-hmm. But I was recently thinking, there's a lot of this, The Secret and, what's the word that people are manifestation.
Yeah. Law of attraction and all that. Law of
attraction. That's a big thing now, and people are talking about it now. But years ago, 10, 15 years ago, people didn't really talk about that. Not
No, but I'd never heard of it.
No, so I was recently thinking, I always used to feel like I was busy, even when I wasn't busy. And I used to feel like, what was I doing? Like when I say, for example, that's what's just sprung into my mind. I'm going to be the youngest trainer to train a world champion. I used to think about that. What would be my path to that? And if that happened, and then that would happen, and then that's how I'd end up getting there. I was manifesting these things without actually realizing that's what I'm doing. I used to say I'm going to certain achievements that have come off. I used to think about those constantly. I used to be like, I'm rammed. I'm so busy. Like I haven't got a moment to myself. But really, I had all the time in the world. But a lot of the time, what I was doing was manifesting these things that I've actually achieved now. So, training a heavyweight champion of the world, again being a trainer of a world champion, and training numerous world champions at the same time, and these kind of things. I used to think about how would that happen, and how would that happen, and then how would I run that if that scenario was to occur, and then if I wanted to do this and wanted to achieve that, how? But
that is boxing, isn't it? It's chess, isn't it? It's if he does this, we need to be prepared.
It is more so in a sense of, styles, and if he's going to do this, he's going to do that. But I would think like, how am I going to get to train? For example, if I wanted to train Floyd Mayweather, how would that situation occur? And what I was doing was manifesting. I didn't even realize it at the time. And I think that's important, and that's helped with self-belief, just that I'm confident this is going to happen. So going back to the original question as well of would I do this for minimum wage?
I think you would.
I would, yeah, because I have done it. But I've always done it not with a sense of, I've got to do this today and I've got to do this tomorrow and I'm going to be here for 5 years and do I want to do this for the rest of my life? I've never had that mentality. Never.
Yeah, you can't
had this mentality of I'm going to do this now, but in 3 years, that's where I'm going to be because I'm going to do this and then that's going to happen. And then once I achieve that, I know that I'll be able to push on then this. And I always had that mentality. And going back to the very start of this conversation about people have said to me along the way of, I feel like no matter what path you took, you would be successful. It's because I've got that mentality and that drive and that hunger. Not to blow my own trumpet.
No, but I can sense that anyway. Do you know what I mean?
But in I think that's important. Again, what you were saying there, that there's plenty of jobs that you've done, and you might think, I shouldn't have to do this. I shouldn't have to do this job, and it costs me, and etc. etc. But there are little investments along the way, and it might not work out as it's cost me £200, but next week that £200 that I've spent is going to bring me back. It doesn't work out like that. Again, manifestation and self-belief, and the universe has got a funny way of, you make the right decisions, and that's cost me £200, that's cost me £100. I can't see a way out, but I'm still going to keep going. Eventually, the universe will pay you back.
And that even like when I worked with you, like, because I was like, only good can come from this scenario, nothing bad. He's a good lad before I'd even met you. And I was like, when I met you, I was like, he's a decent bloke. I know I've got the right intentions. So what? And then you wouldn't believe the amount of things that I've came off of just working with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is mad, mate. So
I'd like to just put it out there. I did pay you for your work. Like,
yes, you did, mate. Yes, you did.
Because again, like, there's a lot of that as well. People wanting
100%.
People to do free things and all the rest of it. But, very good at your job. You brought in quality, you've done quality work. Exactly what we was after, and people deserve paying when they're doing a good job, but I understand there's going to be scenarios where you think, maybe
I might have to take a loss on
it. Yeah, or I wasn't actually employed to come and do this event, but I'm going to come and do this event anyway because it keeps, it's a little investment along the way. People will still see me in the area and the field that I want to be, and eventually something might come off of that, and if not off of this one, might come off the next one, and it'll end up working out when you've got that attitude.
When I said about did success change you? Has your support network changed at all as you were from when you started out up until now? Do you have the same friends? How do people view you now? Because I know personally, Ben, I've got a few people around me and I have definitely went down my own path, and a lot of people who knew me when I was younger are like, he's doing his own thing, like, fuck him type of thing, almost like, well, he's doing his thing, we'll just do ours. And it's not that I had to come to the conclusion of it's me that's changed because I've wanted different things. Not that I've wanted more, better. I'm not better than anyone else, but I've wanted a different goal. So to achieve that, I can't be around the same people doing the same things week after week because that's not going to get me closer. But I know initially when I sort of got into the content PT business, I didn't. I felt a lot of friction, a lot of resistance from my friends. I felt a lot of that. So it was almost like, shit, am I going to have to cut them all out here, or is this okay? But then I came to the realization that no, as it's you that's changed. You need to just get on board with that because it is different for normal people. Has that happened to you? Did you experience that?
Yeah, did friends drop off along the way for sure? But I think you have to look at so you're saying now I've realised, I've changed. Have you changed for the better? So in that case, if you have changed for the better and people are going to drop off, they're not the right people for you to be around. They might have been the right people. Not to say I had bad people around me. They might have been the right people at that moment in time. But for the path that you're looking to then go on, unfortunately, these guys are not on this journey with me. That,
of course.
Sometimes in life, people play a role. And it's hard for people to realise that they played a role in a certain period.
Yeah.
Not everybody is for life.
Yeah, that's what you were saying, wasn't it, about being at that time?
They played a role in your life at that moment in time. Now, I actually got into a relationship, and my partner at the time, my girlfriend at the time, I would say that she took a lot of characteristics from me. She would work every hour under the sun, and we worked at the same place, and we just worked all the time. We was with each other all the time, so it wasn't a problem because we was around each other all the time. Yeah. But we just worked every hour under the sun, and along that period I lost friends, and I was aware of that. It's not a nice thing to have to accept, but I probably, if I'm being honest, what I was going to say here is I was about to say something that I knew that had to happen. It wasn't, if I'm being honest. Mm-hmm. I was about to say that, but it's probably not the truth. The truth is I'm probably too busy to actually take on board. Actually, do you know what is? I haven't spoke to him for a while, and I haven't spoke to him for a while, and I haven't spoke to him for a while. So when the time came of, fucking hell, I haven't spoke to him for quite a while. Let me send him a message, and then it just the relationship didn't really feel the same, and it just didn't go anywhere. It was like, well, have you spoke to him for a little while? Do you know what? I haven't actually spoke to him for a little while. And then other friends, it's like, you get in contact, it's like, oh, never stop speaking. It's like, I spoke to him yesterday, even though I might not have spoke to him for however long. And I've still got friends like that I was friends with from young. Funny enough, that exact scenario has actually happened to me recently. So recently I've had a baby, and I've just been busy, and been a busy period with fights. And I messaged one of my friends that I hadn't spoke to for a little while. And the reply was almost like, we hadn't stopped speaking at any point. Yeah. And when people ask me about friends, he's probably the friend that I mentioned straight away. Like, he's like, he's probably one of my closest mates that, that relationship just never changes. And I think he understands the way that I am. And I think you have to be a little bit selfish when in your mind, you're wanting to run the best content company in the world. In your mind, you're wanting to have the best podcast in the world. You're going to be fixated on that, and you're going to be obsessed. If you wasn't, you're never going to have the best.
Exactly.
So I think that people that understand that about you and respect that about you, that relationship's like, he's cracking on, he's doing his thing, but we still catch up here. But
kind of just
Other people, unfortunately, there are people that don't like to see it. They don't like to see you move on. They don't, or you hear whispers of, oh, so and so said, yeah, he's doing well now, but in a year's time, it's not going to be the same. You think, oh, did he say that? Like, I thought it was, it's disappointing, it's heartbreaking, it's upsetting, but it's part of life. You have relationships that come and go, and a lot of what I would class friends now is a lot of the boxers that I work with as well, because you develop that relationship, you're with them every day, and we get on really well. And I know
you're like a father figure, aren't you? In a way,
to a degree, yeah. To a degree, yeah. Also, you need to have a friendship as well. I think it's important that it's not just rule with an iron rod and no smiling in the gym, and don't have a laugh with me. And I think when you have that relationship, but when you do actually, when you have a relationship that you can have a laugh and a joke with, but it actually has a bigger impact when you say, do you know what, mate? You need to stop doing that because X, Y, Z.
Yeah, because you boost the respect, don't you, along the way as well?
Yeah, I think they go, actually, do you know what? It's got a little bit more substance. I think if you're constantly having a moan and a whinge and trying to tell somebody off, it almost loses its. In the end, it's almost like, oh, fuck him. That's how I find anyway. But when you say, I don't rein you in much, but that needs to stop, it's almost like, actually, do you know what? I need to, because otherwise he wouldn't have said it like that.
How is your little girl, Ben? And how's it like to be a dad?
Yeah, she's good. It's brilliant. Unfortunately, so when you're first having a baby, I love my sleep. Everybody's always going, sleep, make sure you get your sleep in now, you're going to be tired. So at the beginning, I was like, God, this can't be right. Like, people can't live like this. And
I
then
tell them all the time. I've got an 18-month-old girl,
so
mate.
it got to a point where I thought, no, it can't be right. And I took her to the hospital, and it turned out she had a lactose intolerance.
Okay.
So,
just calmed right down.
We've changed her. She was being breastfed. She's changed to a formula, like a hypoallergenic formula, and it took a few weeks still for it to the lactose, whatever it was, to get out of her system. And but she's sleeping so much better now, so much better.
How are you? Are you a hands-on dad? Are you? Because I know you graft a lot.
I graft a lot. My missus is, my wife is, she's absolutely brilliant. She pretty much does everything. So I'm lucky in that respect.
That's unbelievable, mate. That's unbelievable. What's your plans for the future, mate?
Plans for the future. Again, that's a goal of mine. At one point, I will create, or not create, but I will help develop the best boxer in the world. That is the goal. That is the goal that we want to achieve. I don't think Britain has ever produced, and I'm not saying it, but I have great relationships with a lot of American fighters. I get a lot of respect from the American fighters. I think because of the approach that we take, it's a lot more accepted and appreciated, I feel, overseas than it is.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
In the UK, but I'm not saying it wouldn't be an American fighter, but Britain has never produced the number one pound for pound fighter.
Do you think you're working with that person now?
Not sure. Like I said, you can't ever say, what consistency can do and what that can change with people.
Yeah.
Things can turn very quickly, very, very quickly. For example, Lee Wood is a perfect example of that. When he come to me, he had 2 losses off at domestic level, won a British title and become world champion. So I can't say that we're not, but I won't say that we definitely are. All I know is that I'm confident in that this system at some point will produce the best boxer in the world. But again, I understand people might sit here and go, see what he said there, and people might.
But you've proved what you've said to this point.
But people might associate that as an ego as well. Again, it might have been this might be one of these comments where I think, you know what, probably should have kept that to myself. But
just see it, mate.
Yeah, you have to, and I think you have to. I have that belief. I have that belief, and it's something that I want to push to other people, because I don't think you should be embarrassed to say things that other people can't achieve, or they don't see as believable. They're laughing because they don't think it's achievable, or they don't think it's believable. Yeah, but if I told you I was going to do what I've done here, you probably would have laughed at that.
Yeah,
you probably would have said that's not believable. So don't tell me what is believable and what's not believable while you sit there and live a believable life.
Fair point. Last question, Ben. Is there anyone who you'd love to work with, past or present? If you can choose anyone. Even it could be like, fuck, I wish I'd been involved in that fight.
I work remotely with Devin Haney at the minute, obviously. Brilliant fighter to work with. I was able to be a bit more hands-on, but for whatever reason at the moment, I'm unable to be so hands-on, but we work remotely. 2 other fighters that I've got a lot of respect for that would would be great to work with is Jaron Ennis and Shakur Stevenson. I think that those three really stand out to me.
And what do you see in them? Like, what is the drive? What's compelling you towards?
So with Devin, the story with Devin, what stood out for me was I think he was 21 years old at the time, and I was in the gym that he was coming to spar at, and he turned up. We actually got talking originally about a watch. I think I had a watch, and we got talking about watches and that. And then, but he come in 21 years old, world champion already at this point. 15-man team he walked in with. He smashed the life out of these two sparring partners, battered them. And I'm actually quite soft-hearted, so I'm thinking, you can't keep doing that. So I'm saying to the sparring partners, next time in this scenario, maybe if you try that, maybe if you do that when he does this. This kept happening because you was doing that. And he got out of the ring and he looked across and he went, Coach, let me get some of that work. And he walked over and was like, what did you think? What this? And I said what I thought. And he was like, Dad, come over here. Tell my dad what you just said. So I told him, and his dad was like, as if to say, you know your shit. And then I went back and I was watching. This is a genuine true story. I went back and I was watching the Michael Jordan, The Last Dance documentary.
Yeah.
And it was like desperate for a 1%. And I remember walking up the stairs thinking that reminds me of Devin. That desperate for 1%. 21 years old, already a world champion. Walked in the gym with a 15-man team. Smashed the life out of two sparring partners. Most people in that scenario would go, I'm the man. He looked across and went, what do you think I could do better? And I walked up the stairs after watching that Last Dance thing thinking, that reminds me of Devin. This is a true story. I went on my Instagram and Devin had messaged me, Coach, would you be willing to work with me for my fight? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that is mad. Like, it popped into my mind. And I looked
Law of attraction, isn't it?
Like, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, true. And we got chatting and we ended up making that happen. So, straight away I thought, and still, again, we work remotely. I'm not able to be there by his side and work alongside him physically at this moment in time, but he's on to me. What do you think about this fight? What do you think about that fight? Can you guys do a scouting report? And
that's going to feed into you wanting to help him more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. And I love that mentality. And again, straight after his fights, when I have been there as well, like it'll be in the change room and it'll be like, well, what did you think about this? What did you think about that? I'll remember it. So he was talking about a scenario that happened in the fight. He got hit with a shot. And he said to me straight away, I remember you mentioning that. And I actually thought that at that moment in time, I got hit with that shot. And I was like, Ben said that would happen if I did this, And just that coachability, I have a passion for that. I love that, And I see that in Shakur. I see that he's an absolute student of the sport. And I know that because of some of the things that he does. I can tell that he's picked that up from watching boxing. I can tell that. And Lee Wiley, the guy that works with me, Wiley, fantastic analyst.
Geordie lad.
Geordie lad. Great boxing mind. So Shakur's got this move where he will pin the opponent's gloves and stab a left hand to the body. And Lee was always saying to me, I guarantee you, if you said to Shakur, how many times have you watched Zab Judah versus Floyd Mayweather? He would laugh. I guarantee you he'd say that. I would laugh. So just recently, Terence Crawford boxed David Avanesian. He was pinning Avanesian's guard and stabbing the left hand to the body. And these interviewers were joking and speaking to Shakur like, we saw that Crawford actually ended up saying to Shakur, I stole some of your moves. And they said to Shakur, where did you get that from? And Shakur said, I got it from Floyd versus Judah. So Lee Wiley was like, I told you. But Lee knew that because he's watched that fight so many times. He can say, I know watching what he's doing that from watching that. Lee's never had the conversation with Shakur.
Yeah.
But Lee can sit there and go, I know certain things that he's doing. He has that in his mind. And that's a big thing. That's why we push lads to watch boxing so much, because even if you can't grasp exactly what it is that you're asking someone to do, if they watch boxing consistently enough and properly watch it and study it, you will be able to go, I've got this scenario in my mind. I know that that's what they're thinking about and what they're wanting to see. So you can almost at least try to imitate what you're seeing. And then from there, we can go, do you know what, you're doing this, but I would probably adjust it like this, or that's a little bit too fast, change the tempo there, for example. And and I know that Shakur's a big student of the game. Unfortunately, they're potential rivals at the moment, so that wouldn't work. But again, with Ennis, I just think certain moments that he shows, Jaron Ennis is another one. He shows an IQ that I think, he just gets it. He can recognise things, the speed that he's able to process that. And that's the thing with Pat as well, He's so quick to process things. Oh, I've recognised that. Bomb, there's the adjustment. The opponent's like, what?
Do you ever get pissed off if they're not listening to you?
Oh, yeah, I do. But I wouldn't say I'm what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Again, I'm almost like,
Is it like a back to the drawing board? We're going to sort that out.
Nah, the lads actually joke about it. So I've got a thing where I'll say, for example, I might say, do this, and they're not doing it. I said, do this, and they might not do it.
I've seen you do it.
And I'll go, or not. And I'll just turn away. And they're like, I think that drives some of them crazy. Because almost sarcastically, I'm like, well, I told you that was going to happen. Like, you don't want to listen. And I think for some of them, it's like, oh, I hate it when he does that. Or I'll joke about them and wind them up. But if it continues to happen, it'll be like, hold on a minute. Like, I'm literally wasting my breath because I'm telling you this is going to happen if you don't do this. You're not doing it, and that's happening, and you're telling me, I can't do it. No, you can do it, but you're not. Your focus is somewhere else. That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes I would rather someone overcompensate to do what I'm asking them to do than to not actually do it because their focus is still somewhere else.
Because it shows that they're not in tune with you.
Yeah, like just focus on what I'm asking you to do, and this is a big thing in boxing as well. I'm so against this attitude of trying to win a spar. He's come from another gym and I want to get the better of that spar. What you need to do to get the better of that spar might be completely different to what we're asking you to work on. Like, you actually may not get the better of the spar by practicing this certain thing. Who cares?
Or ultimately, what you need to do from that spar is fucking learn.
Yeah, exactly. So who cares, like, if he's actually, do you know what is he actually got the upper hand there? Little do they know you've focused on 2 or 3 things to practice there.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the fight, hold on a minute, what happened there? Like, he wasn't sparring like that, or that wasn't happening, or I got the better of him. Yeah, but can you do it in the fight? No. Why not? Because when he goes into spar, he's practicing certain things. So when he gets in the ring, he's got the skill set that he needs to win that fight.
Yeah.
When you're going in to try and win a spar, but you're not actually developing your craft. And when you get into a ring and a certain scenario happens, you've not got that in the locker.
Ben, it's been unbelievable, mate. I've genuinely, mate, enjoyed it.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much for your time, mate.
No problem, mate.
Cheers, Ben. Thank you.
No problem.